Ring ring, it's time for another episode of Crossplay Conversations, the show where we dive deep into the world of video games while keeping it light. I'm your host, Luke Lewis, and today I'm joined by the Wii U Wonder Kid, Jacob McCourt.
Hello, I'm here to talk about video games.
We love to see it. And rounding on our trio, it's the sneaker savant, Joseph Hooper.
What's up? What's up? Let's talk about blueprints today. Let's go.
You know it. So today we're breaking down our recent indie release impressions as well as going over our game of the year so far, because somehow it's May, y'all. We're trucking along. There's been a lot of games. So we're going to kick things off with our icebreaker question and then get into some recent review impressions. But I'm curious, how do y'all feel like 2025 is comparing to 2024 in terms of quality and quantity of releases, in terms of overall industry vibes? How are we feeling this year so far? Jacob, do you want to kick things off?
Yeah, hey, guess what? 2025 for video games, pretty good. I think the thing that I appreciate the most is that some of the biggest games of the year are coming from the what I would call the outside, or they're coming from first-time teams. I mean, Dogubomb, before making Blueprints, was what seems to be an advertising agency where they were doing like games and videos for clients, and then they're like, yo, let's do our own thing. And then we're going to talk about Clair Obscur Expedition 33, also a new team, Sandfall Interactive from France, to the point where Emmanuel Macron, the president of France, was like, yo, arts are here, video games. So yes, good games, top games come from the outside. There's just too much to play. I just wish things would stop.
Agreed. Joseph, how you feeling?
Yeah, I think we're in prime position for this to be one of the GOAT years, one of the best years of all time. Like, we are starting off strong. We're only like a third of the way through the year, and we still have a lot to be excited for. Similar to what Jacob said, got a lot of nice little surprises so far from the indie side of things. I'm very excited to see how the rest of the year shakes out for indies, because I'm sure we'll have at least one or two more fun little surprises along the way. But then we still got some heavy hitters. Even with GTA 6 being delayed, there's still a lot of heavy hitters on the way. So I'm having a great time with this year. But like Jacob said, there's too much stuff to play. Way too much stuff to play.
Yeah, agreed. I feel like this year I've played less games, but I love the games that I've played more than I have in previous years, if that makes sense. Like,
Yes.
not to spoil the next topic, but some of these games we're talking about today, like when I started playing them, I was like, oh, this is like such a special game that I think I'm playing one of my favorite games for the first time. Like, I had that realization, which is just really neat and really, really fun. So I'm excited to dive into things. But yeah, I think in terms of a game standpoint, this year has been really stellar, and I'm equally excited for stuff to come. And I think we'll get some pleasant surprises of stuff we don't even know about. And to chat about the GTA delay a little bit, I think the next 2 weeks are going to be insane in terms of release dates. I think we're going to see a lot of dates leading into Summer Games Fest and subsequent events in the next couple weeks. And yeah, the fall is going to be stacked, but in a fun way. Plenty of options.
Can I play a fun game with you guys?
Sure.
I know I mentioned some of the top games of the year,
Mm-hmm.
but if you had to name the top 5 games according to our friends at Open Critic, where would you put, or what games would you put in the top 5? Because most of them are, from what
Based
I would
off of
call,
now?
from the outside. What did you say?
I think I know this.
Like right this second?
Based off of so far this year?
Yeah, so far.
Okay, so there's an answer key.
There's an
All
answer
right.
key, yes.
So we have Clair Obscur is up there.
Number 1.
So Clair Obscur is number 1 on Open Critic. I think they're at a 91 right now.
They're at a 92.
92. Split Fiction is up there. I think
Split Fiction
Fiction's
number
at a
2
91.
is at a 90.
So then we also have, I think, so Blueprints is up there at like an
Blueprints
89.
is number 4 at 89. Yep.
I think
You're on a
Kingdom Come
roll, so
Deliverance
I was just gonna say that
up
was gonna
there?
be
Is
my
number
next
is
one.
number 3
Yep,
at a 90.
okay,
Yep.
okay.
You're just missing number
and
5.
then number 5 has to be Monster Hunter Wilds at like an 89.
So technically it's number 6, but it's an 89. So there's like 5, 6, 7 at 89. So I'll give you that and say you got Monster
Okay.
Hunter. But what other 2 games are at 89 then?
Luke.
Um,
Also, for the record, while Luke is thinking about this is 100% some bullshit that would have been in video game trivia.
yeah, we're
Yeah.
This would I would have gone crazy after learning that this was not on the list. Just
Yep.
for the record.
I feel like it's a smaller indie like Bionic Bay or maybe Keep Driving because those were like sleeper, really high scoring.
Bionic Bay's at number 9. It's an 88.
Okay, so I'm in the ballpark.
Yep.
Citizen Sleeper, is that up there or
It's
did
like
that?
84, 85.
Yeah, I was gonna say. I think
Yeah,
that's
it's
a little
86. It's
lower.
number 13.
Okay, all right.
Let me give you the one that you probably won't get. Joseph saying it's some bullshit. The Talos Principle Reawakened at 89, number 7.
Boo.
Okay, fair
But
enough.
the number 5 is on the list of games that we have to talk about in this episode. Not necessarily that we've played, but that we want to play. This game is on essentially all of our lists that we really want to play it.
Oblivion?
Nope.
Oh, wait.
All
Let
of
me see
us
your list.
want to
I'm
play
looking at my list.
We still
5,
need to play.
4, 3, 2,
Keep driving?
1. Keep driving.
I said
number
but I
5
said
at
Keep
89.
Driving.
He
Oh,
did
did
say
you?
keep
Then
driving.
I
Yeah,
just
because I
didn't hear
said
you.
Keep Driving and the other
89 is kind of crazy.
smaller indie. I forget what I said, but I said 2
Yeah.
games at the same time, so that was probably it. But okay.
So
cool.
no, yeah, top 5: Clair Obscur, Split Fiction, Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, Blueprints, and Keep
I
Driving.
think Keep Driving might be my PAX Plane game because I think that runs quite well on deck, so I might boot that up.
Okay.
Nice. Well, that was a fun little interstitial. Shall we get in? We've foreshadowed it. Shall we get into some indie review roundup stuff with recent releases? So today we're going to chat about Blueprints, Wanderstop, Despelote, and Clair Obscur. I think we're all in like varying places with some of these games, completed some of them, working our way through some of them, but just excited to talk about these games, and we haven't had a chance to yet on the pod, so it's a good opportunity.
Question.
Joseph, yes, sir.
Before we get into Blueprints, I appreciate you teeing me up there.
I was I was going straight to you.
Am I tripping? Did we talk about Split Fiction and I wasn't on the episode, or what happened to that?
We did not. We
We
can
have
also
not.
talk about
Is that an
Split
indie
Fiction.
game? Technically, I know
What
it's
is
published by
indie?
EA.
Technically, I think it has the spirit of an indie game. You know what I mean? The create.
I mean, the studio
creative
itself.
spirit. It is an
I mean,
independent
they get
studio,
backing
to my
from-
knowledge, but they get backing
But
from.
I do think if they fail, they're gone, kind of situation. I don't think that EA is necessarily their full safety net. Maybe they are, but I don't know.
That
So I
said,
still
they're
kinda
not
consider
going
them as
anywhere.
an
That
FT.
game real good.
No. Yeah, they're locked in. They're locked in. We could talk. Maybe we can talk about that at the end as well. But sorry, please continue.
No. You're all good. And I think that one will also come up too when we're doing our best of the year so far discussion. So we'll definitely get some Split Fiction talk. But before that, I want to hear your thoughts on Blueprints. We've been messaging about it for weeks. You've been playing it nonstop. Every time I see your Discord status, you're playing Blueprints.
Yep.
Give us the quick, if folks have no idea what the heck this is, what's the basic elevator pitch? What do you think of the game? We'll try to keep it spoiler free for the most part, just because there's a lot to uncover for this one. But
so the pitch for this is Blueprints is essentially like a architectural roguelike where you are randomly generating the layout for this manor by drafting a handful of rooms, and similar to a roguelike where you pick a weapon or anything like that, you pick one of 3 rooms every time you like try and go through a door. But the game is in first person, so you're like actually going through the manor that you're building as you're drafting it. And the whole premise of this is that your uncle has passed and he's leaving this manor in Mount Holly to you, as long as you can reach room 46 in a manor that only has 45 rooms. So that's the premise. How do you reach room 46 if there's only 45 rooms type beat? So long story short, This might be one of the best games I've ever played. Not even might. This is definitely one of the best games I've ever played. I'm trying to debate, is this one of my favorite games of all time? Is this my favorite game of
Wow.
all time? This game is absolutely incredible. For the record, we had the episode, I don't know if it was last week or 2 weeks ago, where we were talking about like our ideal game, and I pitched my game of like, oh, I love like finding stuff as you go. I like you never knowing what the next move is. This is 100% this game. You never know what this game is going to throw at you. There is like first the twist of like, hey, it's a roguelite with like building planning. Like it's just so random, and it's a really fun way to like turn the genre on its head when we have probably 100 roguelikes releasing every year at this point. So that's unique. But then the puzzles in this game are just legitimately insane. Like not only reaching room 46 is some craziness and you'll discover a lot of wild things along the way, but even beyond that, like it just almost seems like an infinite like hole of like digging that you can dig yourself into and find stuff. Like I'm I'm sure I'm over 100 hours in this game at this point. And I found something yesterday where I was like, what the hell is it? Like, this is crazy. How did I miss this the whole time? Um, and not only that, but this game is a game that seems like it has no story. Like, if you're not really paying attention, you get to the end, you'll get a cutscene. Once you beat the game, you'll be like, what the hell? What is going on there? The story is so in depth, and the story has such a level of maturity that you don't really see in games in terms of what it's saying. Like I'm just so impressed that the team at Dogu Bomb was able to craft such a brilliant set of puzzles, a brilliant story behind this, like this world that they built, um, and actually have some like very meaningful messages underneath all of the secrets that you find, which is really, really awesome. So, this is for me easy 10 out of 10. I would recommend this to everyone. I think if you're not a puzzle person, this could seem like a game that's boring. You could feel like you're running against a brick wall at sometimes, but I still think this is like masterfully crafted game. Amazing, 100%.
Yeah, for sure. Jacob, you've
How
been playing
many?
as well, or go ahead.
Yeah, I've been playing it as well. I have a fun story about my playtime because it's a little deceiving. What day are you on at this point, Joseph? Because I think when I started, I was doing my runs too fast. Because, like you
Mm.
said, the story isn't given to you; you have to seek it out. And
Mm-hmm.
so, I would say our runs were probably like 30 to 40 minutes on average. Where I was talking to friends, and they're like, "Yo, my run took me 60 minutes. My run took me 90 minutes," and I was like, "Damn, I'm playing this game the wrong way." Did you find
Yeah.
yourself like what was your average run, and did that lengthen over time or shorten over time?
Now it's my average runs were pretty long in the beginning. I'd say my
Hmm.
average runs were maybe like 40 minutes to an hour usually because I am trying to turn over every little
Hmm.
thing. Now I am I'm very focused in what I'm trying to do a lot of the time.
Hmm.
So if I don't do what I'm trying to do, I'll kill the run early.
Hmm.
But I finished the game, or I beat the main objective at around day 34, and I probably had
Oh wow.
30 or 40 hours of playtime in the game. I am now on like day 175. So, yeah. And and I'm like over 100 hours at this point. So,
Jeez. Yeah, you are much farther than I am. I'm at 62 hours, but that is deceiving because so my partner and I were playing it together. So for about the first 30 hours, we were just, exchanging and going back and forth. And I had a business trip to go on, and so the night before we stayed up way too late and essentially got to room 46 for the first time as like together. We
hmm
had an attempt, I would say it took us into the 30s as well as far as days went.
hmm
Um, maybe even into the 40s. I don't remember what day we hit it on, but I almost got to room 46 the day before. We were just a couple of steps short from getting to the room, which is like
Yep.
heartbreaking to have the music swell. Again, we're
Yep.
gonna be spoiler light here. The music swells and it kind of leads you to the room, and we were just and there's no way we could have gotten to it. So we got to it together at hour 30, and I kind of said, yeah, if you want to play it, one run a night while I'm away, just like record videos for me of anything significant. And then she ended up really not listening, and then played it for another like 10 to 12 hours without me.
Oh,
And so we've now gotten to the point where like I'm checking in with her, but this is now Jess's playthrough, where
love
she
that.
is turning over every rock, every stone. She plays maybe about 3 games a year. Lorelei and the Laser Eyes was like her favorite game of last year. We played that one together.
Nice.
And I think she's just going to keep, like you, Joseph, turning over rocks to try and find threads that she can pull on until there ain't no threads no mo.
I love it.
Nice. That's awesome. Yeah, I've been pitching Claire on playing it, and she's like, it's her next must play. So I'm excited to see what she thinks. For similar reasons, I think she'll have fun uncovering stuff. But yeah, I echo everything y'all have said. I think this game's incredible. This was one that I was hinting at earlier in the show when I started playing it, and I was like, oh, this is really special. Like, I thought it was going to be a cool game, and I had seen it at events and things over the years and kept tabs on it. But like, I started playing it, and I was like, the style of this is so neat. The like ambient music is really good. I think the art style and just the vibe of the narrative too gives me major Edith Finch energy, which I love, but in a very different way and very different gameplay style. It's interesting, Jacob, you mentioned that you thought you were playing the game the wrong way, because I feel like I don't know if there is a wrong way to play it. I think we all progress in different ways, but I definitely think I fall into the like shorter run camp, because I'm just like quick to kill a run if I run out of steps, if I run out of resources, if I know it's not going where I want. So I have like, I haven't made it to room 46, but I have a significant number of runs. I think I'm somewhere in the 40s. And I think I've played way fewer hours than y'all. I think I'm at like 20 hours. So I also have
just a casual 20.
Well, in comparison, because Joseph's talking about like 100+ hours, which is like you can easily put that, but it's such an interesting game too, because the elevator pitch is like an architectural roguelike. That does not sound like something that'll really like excite me to keep coming back to, but I think the way the narrative unfolds and the puzzle design is such that like I always feel like I'm accomplishing something or uncovering something interesting that I didn't on each run, but then you'll hit a wall where you're like, I have no idea what this is. But that's kind of cool in a sense, because like you might not see that again for several days. And I haven't gotten into like heavy note taking, but I definitely think if I, go through I've been in phases with game where it's like all I played for like 2 weeks straight, and then I took a breather. So I think in my next like hot and heavy phase of blueprints, I'll get into some notes, but I also have some Room 46 related questions for y'all that I'll get to after the show, because things happen, but I'm not sure if I did it wrong. Anyway, it's a game that you can discuss in heavy spoilers too, which is really fun.
Yes.
But yeah, can't recommend Blueprints enough. And it's on Game Pass and PlayStation Extra.
Crazy.
If y'all have those services. So that's how I was playing it. But yeah, no barrier to entry on this one.
Yeah, and it plays pretty good on Steam Deck too. If you're someone who's playing it relatively on, like I'm splitting the time, but mostly on Steam Deck, and it works, relatively well.
I might buy it again on Steam just so I can keep playing
this
game on the PAX flights.
I actually bought an app called XB Play on my Steam Deck just so I could stream this game from my Xbox to my Steam Deck.
Ooh.
I bought it for like $4.
Oh, that's
and that's how I've played probably 20 hours of the game. It's just like I'm watching a TV show, got my Steam Deck, streaming from my Xbox in sleep mode. But I was gonna say, I knew this game was gonna be good when what I consider the creative cabal started hyping this game up, which was Andrew Schuldice, who made Tunic, Daniel Mullins, who is the Inscription guy, Local Thunk, obviously from Balatro. Slowly over the past year, one after another, these people were coming out and saying, hey, yeah, this game has the sauce, this game is something crazy. And I was like, oh, like I know we're cooking. Like the people who made some of my favorite games of all time, we're about to be in for a treat. And I was not disappointed.
I think Andrew Schuldice might even be in the credits as a special thank you.
He is, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Cool. All
That's
of them
awesome.
are. All of
them
the
are.
big boys are, yeah. Except Local Thunk. I don't know if he's in there, but this is if you guys like this one and you guys haven't played Outer Wilds yet, I highly, highly recommend playing that, because it gives you the same sense of accomplishment when you're solving those puzzles.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. I think just to tease a little bit, we're planning down the road to do a full spoilers big discussion of Blueprints with special guests. So we'll talk more about that one soon. But that's on the radar, listeners. If you're playing, we want to get into the nitty gritty for this one too. But highly recommend it. Another game we'd highly recommend. Jacob, you and I have been playing Wanderstop from Ivy Road.
Yeah,
you want to chat a little bit about that one?
Yeah, so a Wanderstop is a on its surface it is a cozy tea making game where a world-class warrior uses the opportunity to take a little break and make some tea, but it's actually much more Davey Reedon and Carla Zamonja are writer producers on this one, and so you can kind of understand maybe where the pedigree of this one goes. I beat this one a couple of weeks ago, and I loved it. It was not really what I expected, but I loved it nonetheless. It is, you might have heard this, so I think we'll keep this spoiler light. It is a story about burnout, expectations of self, and how you sort of make your way through the world. Dealing with other people's expectations of you. I have a lot of things to say, Luke, but is it what you expected when you started playing it?
I think yes and no, because like you mentioned, at the surface level, it's like, oh, this looks like a delightful, cozy game that'll hit all the right vibes. It'll be perfect for like our signature game of the year category of me with a cup of coffee on a rainy Sunday afternoon. Like, it'll be that game. But I think getting into it, I was just really impressed with like the level of authenticity and the commentary on mental health, and it was very cathartic in that way, in a way that surprised me a lot. I thought the writing was really fun, and I enjoyed the mechanics of making tea and kind of the light farming elements. As somebody who's not a huge farming game sim player, I thought this was like a satisfying gameplay loop, but not like so daunting that it's like, okay, I'm going to dump 50 hours into growing crops and perfecting this process. It was more just like about the experience of it all, which I really enjoyed. And then, like you said, the story definitely goes interesting places that I think it's definitely a great game for cozy game folks. But I think if you're looking for an intriguing narrative and just something more substantial, I think this game fills your cup as well.
And see, one of those games where, I had done a spoiler cast about it with, friend of the show, Matt Storm, for the Left Behind Game Club. Maybe we'll link it here if you're curious on getting a deep dive on that one. But I think even the stuff that they took away from the game that I took away from the game were different. And it's one of those games where, it can be left up to interpretation. Essentially, like, I took away one theme, they took away another theme, and neither of us are wrong. It's really just like how you interpret and internalize what Carla, Davey, and the team are trying to do over there. So I don't know if this one is not on Game Pass, but this is an Annapurna joint, and it's one that I would highly recommend. It's one of my favorite games of the year, also.
Yeah, definitely.
Question. So I thought the marketing cycle for this game was pretty interesting, where I think the marketing was 50-50 in that, similar to like you both are saying, yeah, this is a slice of life game, but also it came with this is the creator of the Stanley Parable, and there were like teases of something greater. Does the story flip on its head similar to Stanley Parable, or is it much lighter in how it tries to subvert the narrative?
I think it's lighter. It's not, I don't want you to walk in and thinking like, oh, we're getting another, Davey Reedon, beginner's guide, type game. It is much more subtle. But I think that you can definitely see how, when you look at someone's works, they all have a sort of a through line. And I think the through line here is that it's not that it turns it on itself on its head really aggressively, but that you look at it on the surface and it's actually not the game that it markets itself to be.
I see. Okay.
Yeah, I think I would echo that as well, of just there's more than meets the surface, but it is still at its core a familiar experience, I guess.
Gotcha.
If that makes sense.
Okay. Yeah.
And they don't put the like I don't want you to think like this is a cozy management game that's gonna make you, grow plants and manage them and make tea and it's all that stuff is very low stakes. So as someone who
Yeah.
is not a management, farming sim kind of person, think of it almost like Coffee Talk in the level of it's probably even a little bit less than Coffee Talk in the mechanics of making beverages. So I don't want that to be intimidating if you're thinking about this one.
Because I feel like to that point in Coffee Talk, you're not penalized, but it does affect things if you mess up an order. But in Wanderstop, not really much of an issue at all. It's more about just like the tactile experience of going through the motions. But yeah, highly recommend. Shout out to Popagenda for sending over codes for that one.
Yes.
Much appreciated. Checking it out. Jacob, another very recent release as of this recording, Despelote is one that we've checked out at events and things over the years, but you got to check out the full game.
Yeah, and again, shout out to Popagenda for sending over codes for this one. This one's published by Panic. This is Julian Cordero and Sebastian Valbuena that put this one together. I know that we talked about it on our most anticipated games of the year episode with our friends at No Small Games. It just came out as of recording just a couple of days ago. It's a 2-hour slice of life game where you play a kid named Julian, who goes through. He's living in Ecuador. He's experiencing life through the lens of the World Cup and Ecuador's attempt to make it into the Japan-Korea World Cup game or tournament. And it just kind of shares, it's a slice of life game. So it just tells you, or it's trying to show you what life was like at the time. And it's really done through the lens of football, not American football, but football. And so I really like it. I've played about half of it. My understanding is that it's maybe like a 2-hour game. And it's one of those games where you will take away from it what you invest in it. It's not, it's very, the game just sort of happens around you and you take away from it what you take out of it. The thing that I've really taken out of it, and the thing I'm going to research a lot after this, is I didn't realize what was happening in Ecuador with respect to currency. And, they had a period of hyperinflation in 2001. If you remember what happened in Venezuela a couple of years ago, they had their own currency called sucre, and they ended up going to the US dollar. And close banks so people couldn't do bank runs to take their money out. So there's a lot of like interesting stuff that was happening at the time that I'm taking away from it. In addition to, this kid just really loves soccer. He loves playing soccer with his friends. He loves running out in the rain and the mud. He loves finding the neighborhood dogs. He's a mischief maker. And so I really appreciated this one. I'm not finished with it yet, but I will. And so I'll probably post something on TikTok or either write about it when I'm done with it. But that's Despelote. I'm enjoying it.
Nice. I'm excited to check it out. I love the historical ties, and I think the visual style is really, really cool for this one too, with kind of it's almost like a VHS filter, but then minimalist color palette. It's very striking.
It is so trippy to see it, and thank you for bringing up the visuals, which is like the other important thing where they take photos and, I don't know what they're doing to them, if they're like layering them or making them look like this VHS kind of filter. But Panic just continues to get the coolest small games.
Yeah.
I feel about them the way I felt with Annapurna when they started, publishing stuff where like every game's a banger and they just pick winners every time. And so, if you think of Panic and their publishing slate, it's been like, thank goodness you're here, Despelote, Goose Game, Arco, Firewatch, Noor, just banger after banger after banger. And they've got some good ones coming up between Time Flies, Blippo, Hurdling, and Big Walk.
I forgot Big Walk was also them. Yeah, that's awesome.
Supposedly this year. So
cool. Very cool. Very cool. Moving into another very cool game, I really, really want to talk about Clair Obscur, y'all. I took a couple days off earlier this week for my birthday, and I mostly just played Clair Obscur, which was not necessarily the plan, but I started playing it, and I got immediately hooked. To give folks the quick elevator pitch from this one, we brought it up earlier in the show, but this is from Sandfall Interactive. It is a turn-based RPG, but not your typical turn-based RPG. I'm having a blast with it. I want to give the story elevator pitch because I knew nothing going into this game, and I think the story pitch in itself is really, really interesting. I won't spoil anything, but just like the basic premise of you're on this team, Expedition 33, in this like fantastical world, and you in this universe, every year a group of people that are all the same age die of that age. So in this case, everyone who is aged to 34 years old dies. Expedition 33 sets out to uncover what is happening that's causing this, try to stop it. There's this greater being, the Paintress, that is kind of a deity god figure within the world. So it's all surrounding in this mystery. But just that basic premise of folks dying, folks volunteering for these expeditions, exploring themes of life and death. This game is so fucking cool. I've been really enjoying my time with it. Joseph, I see you nodding along. I know you've been playing a little bit of it. How has your time been so far?
Also very good. Also very good. There's a lot of things in this game that I love. Yeah, this game is incredible, especially coming from this team. It definitely feels like a full-fledged premium product, and not the full price of a full-fledged premium
Right.
product these days, which is amazing. Um, I have a few nitpicks about the
Sure.
game because, like you said, the story is so incredible. There's a few things that take me out of the story. Um, one, the audio mixing is insane. Whoever mixed this audio is an absolute mad lad because, like, there will be this emotional moment, and these two characters will be like talking to each other, embracing or whatever, really pouring their hearts out. And the volume of the fucking audio track in the background is so loud. I'm like, what did they say? What are they saying there? I can't quite hear. I mean, double-edged sword though. The audio, the soundtrack, banger, like
Mm-hmm.
actually insane. This is one of those games where you go to the start menu and you're like, what if I just sat here for 30 minutes because I just want to hear this opera lady sing. But yeah, the audio mixing crazy. Like, so I'll turn it up to have the dialogue be a little bit louder. Then I get into a battle and the sound effects for the battle are like 200 decibels. They're blowing my speakers out and my eardrums. Crazy. Got to fix that in a patch. Um, Other than that, nothing major. On Xbox, there were a few little framey issues that I saw, but I switched over to PC and like it's pretty smooth there. Also, like the cutscenes are a little bit framey for some reason, even though they're like there are in-engine cutscenes where like, oh, you have your little cute hairstyles and outfits that translate into the cutscenes, and then you have like pre-recorded CGI cutscenes, and those for some reason are at like lower resolution, which is also just like this is one of those things where I love the story so much. Any little thing that starts to like, look off kind of breaks me out. I'm like, damn, just put me back in, man. Just let me forget that I'm playing a video game for a second. But when we talk about the gameplay and like the actual meat of the story and everything, Luke is 100% right. Like Luke knows for sure. Like within the first, after you finish the prologue of like the setup, like when you set out on the expedition, 5 minutes into the expedition, shit's just popping off, and you're like, "Yo, what? Like, what is happening here? Like, this is crazy." Like, it's almost like the characters in the game are as confused as you are at like, "Yo, what? Like, we thought the plot was what was in the trailer." This is what the characters in the game are saying. They're saying,
Mm-hmm.
"Hey, man, we also saw the trailer, and we thought this was the plot, and now." This is like everything is turned on its head immediately, and I'm I don't know how deep I am in the game, but I have gotten, and I'll let you jump in here, Luke, because I want to throw this question to you. I got my fourth party member, or no,
Mm-hmm.
I got my fifth party member. And leading up to getting my fifth party member, I'm like, what the fuck is going on, brother? Like, I was just not expecting it, and the twists just keep coming, and I can only imagine in the second half of the game there's going to be even crazier twists. So Luke, I don't know how far you are, but
I'm like a little bit behind you. I just got my fourth party member, so
Okay.
in the ballpark of where you are. Still
Okay, I
relatively
see.
early in Act One. I think I'm in like the 6 to 7 hour
Gotcha.
range.
Gotcha.
Um, but yeah, I just wanted to add on to what you were saying about the start of the game and getting through the prologue. And I just think in so many RPGs and more traditional JRPGs, it takes a while for the story to really get going, and like the premise of
Yes.
like you're a band of heroes going after the big bad thing, like that's a very common
Hmm.
thing, but like they have that as initial setup here, but it has such a unique twist with the life and death angle of it all and the greater mystery, and you're immediately in the action, and I feel like the world is immediately compelling in a way that I think really just makes this game feel so special to me. If I'm immediately invested in the characters, I immediately want to know what's going on in the world, the creature designs, the scale of everything. Like this is like, it's one of those things where this is the other game I was hinting at where I said I think I've played one of my new favorite games because I just was immediately so invested in a way that's really special. And just to touch on the combat aspects a little bit,
Yes.
It's
this is
literally
a
what I was gonna ask.
yeah, this is a turn-based game in a sense, but I think it falls into that Final Fantasy VII remake camp of like very
Yeah.
involved turn-based and moment-to-moment action where the combat utilizes button prompts for like quick time events, but also you're dodging and parrying and countering attacks in a way that almost feels like a rhythm game, and you're like timing things to the music and the sound effects, and you're learning these boss patterns that make it almost feels like souls like encounters in some
Hmm.
instances, because the game is like pretty difficult at its
Yeah.
base level. It's not crazy. There are optional boss fights that you can encounter that are pretty crazy, I would say, where you're like getting one hit dead, get out of here. um but you don't have to do those things, and you can adjust the difficulty at any time, so I don't want to like scare people off if the difficulty curve isn't for you. But it's such fun combat as a
Yeah.
person who's not a super dodge parry guy. It is very satisfying to like figure out the pattern, figure out the timings, um utilize these different special moves that each character has. You're constantly finding new abilities and equipping different items and switching things up, and environmental effects and all the like typical RPG things, but the packaging and the pacing of it all is just so smooth and quick and satisfying. Sorry, I
Someone
went on a big
described it as a
rant.
combination of like a Persona and a Souls game when it came to the combat itself, and
Yeah.
that pulled me in. That
Mhm.
I as someone who is playing Persona 4 now, and who played his first Souls game like maybe 2 years ago, I was like, okay, I'll give this a shot. But my
Yeah.
understanding is you have to get good at the core gameplay, or else it'll destroy you.
Kinda. Yeah.
It
You
doesn't.
definitely can't passively play this because I think the game expects you not to take full damage each turn, or
Mm.
you'll get thrown out pretty quickly.
Some enemies can hit you like half a dozen or more times in a turn,
Yeah,
right?
I saw an enemy, this dude, like the pattern was like maybe like 3 or 4 hits, and then all of a sudden
Jeez.
he's doing like 8, 9 hits. I'm like,
Right,
yo,
yeah.
like literally, what do you want me to do here, sir?
Yeah, and the
Um,
patterns don't like stay the same between
yeah,
phases, so it's like constantly changing up to where you're like, "Oh, I dodged those 3 hits. Hell yeah." And then it's like, "Where's the what the you're changing it on me?" And like normally I'd be frustrated, but in the context of this game, it's it's
it's pretty
exciting.
fun.
Yeah.
I'll also say two things about the comment. One, the synergies in terms of abilities is really cool.
Mhm.
Like it's not your traditional, oh, this person does fire, this person does water, so you combine them or something, and it's actually really creative. I will say, you start to get these new characters, and it is literally like, okay, let's sit down. We have a little course we have to sit in because this character is doing like this thing and this thing. You add this thing, and then you take a turn and you use this thing, and then once they combine, then you can do this thing, and it's just like, what are we talking about, man? Like this character just got here like 5 seconds ago, and you're throwing all this stuff at me. It's really complicated, but then once you actually use the character and you understand how they work, it's very satisfying of like really operating some of the more advanced characters at a high level. That's really sweet. And also, I love that the parry mechanic, basically the parry and the dodge mechanic, almost ensures that you always have a chance to fight tougher enemies. Like there's this one moment that I probably will never forget. It was so epic. where I was fighting. There's these mimes in the game that give you cosmetic items, but they're so hard for no fucking reason. So like I'm fighting the mime and like I'm doing like a sliver of damage, and I'm like, oh, I'm cooked. Like there's just no way. And there's this ability in the game where once you have 4 party members, you can only play with 3. But if you have 4, once your first 3 get wiped, you can bring in any reserve players to like give you a second try, which is super cool. So it's like send in the reserve team, and then you have like your reserve character walk up. And I had one of these moments where there's a character in the game who early in the game named Mael. She's like kind of like the little sister figure in the game, and she was on my reserve team. She walks out, and this mime still has half health, and I'm like, there's just no way. And then I just get in this rhythm where she's parrying everything, and it was kind of just like this god mode moment of like, I feel like I'm in an anime. This character's blocking everything, just doing max damage to this fucking mime. It just felt so epic when I beat the mime. I was like, let's go, man. I did that. Me. I blocked all those shots. So it really gives you super hype moments as opposed to traditional JRPGs where it's like, okay, I'm strong enough. I just need to do this same combo every time I get into a battle. And if I'm strong enough, I'll win, or I'll just figure out their type and I'll win. There's definitely a new challenge every time you jump into a fight with an enemy because of that parry and dodge logic.
And even the larger boss fights, like the battles are quick. So if you're dying and having to retry, like you're back into the action relatively quickly, which definitely helps. And the variety of moves you're doing, of like each character kind of has like a firearm adjacent ability, whether it's like a projectile or a physical like actual weapon. So you're like, one character will use that to break down a shield, and then the next character will mark the enemy to then have your next party member do even more damage. So then you're calling in like a crazy elemental lightning strike, and then your last. It's just like all playing into each other, and it sounds insane and really complicated, but like you do get into this flow state, like Joseph is saying, and it's just very satisfying, very fun. This skyrocketed. This is, I think, my game of the year right now. It's one that like I was playing a couple different things, and then I started this, and I was like, okay, clearing the schedule. I'm only playing Clair Obscur until I'm done with this game, which speaks volumes for me because I am definitely a tastemaker playing a bunch of stuff at once. So if I'm like, nah, this is like well worth my time.
You're a taster and a tastemaker.
I just always like to be on the pulse of things. So if I'm like, nah, I'm good being behind on current releases for a week or two if I just get to focus on this. So one more thing we also didn't touch on, Jacob, you mentioned the French president shouting out this game. I don't know a ton about French culture, but I will just say like the music and style and vibes of this game feel very French in an awesome way. And based on the president shouting out the game, it's a very good vibe and a cool like art representation of French art. I'll
tell you right now, if you want to know how French this game is, one of my characters is wearing a costume where they're wearing a black and white striped shirt, a baguette on their back, and a beret. So that's it's like caricature levels of French in this game, which I love. And I also watched like the behind the scenes video of like the character voices, and like the Sandfall Interactive team was talking about how fun it was to like get these non-French voice actors to introduce these French vocabulary into their speech, which is very funny. Like you'll see Ben Starr trying to pronounce these French words, and they're like having a ball in the recording room trying to get him to say it. So I love it.
It's been interesting to see. I don't know if you guys have looked at the sales news stories coming out of Clair Obscur, obviously doing incredibly well. But the thing that surprised me the most in the sales of this one is that a third of the sales on Steam seemingly are coming from China. So this game is actually wildly successful in China, beyond being about twice the concurrent players as Metaphor just a year ago.
Wow.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's super awesome. Yeah.
Yeah.
And for this small team, it's just like, let's go. Just put out cool shit. Yeah.
I
Super
will
stoked on this one.
recommend a piece of content about this. So I guess this is a very timely thing to do, but shout out to the fam at Giant Bomb, given all the bullshit that's happening this week over at Fandom. But there's a video with Lucy James and Tamor Hussein where they walk through Japan. It's like a 2-hour video where a lot of it's about Clair Obscur. But there's the back half of it where they just like go to Tower Records and like Super Potato with some of the folks that are making the game to talk about some of the influences, both from a musical standpoint and from a gameplay standpoint. It's
That
just
sounds
like
awesome.
very chill vibes. And as someone who watches a lot of videos of people doing video game shopping in Japan, it was something that I really appreciated.
Wait, the French Clair Obscur team was in Japan with
Yes.
Tam and
Yes, they were. Yes, they
Cool.
were.
Why was that?
I guess it was part of the press tour that they were doing that Kepler took them on because the game is obviously like a JRPG sort of. So they were expecting it to be quite popular in Japan. So maybe what we'll do is I'll share that video with you guys so you can watch it, and then maybe we'll share it in the description here.
Neat. That sounds awesome.
Crazy that this game honestly does feel in a way like a movie release, and how it felt like for like this size of game. Like I'm used to it with Cyberpunk and people doing all these interviews with Keanu Reeves as the game gears up, but like this truly feels like, hey, you see these behind the scenes making of, you see these like different interviews and all these different, like you described it, press tour. Like I think this game for sure has like almost signaled a changing of the guard, or like been like such a I don't know how to describe it. Like it's been a moment where people are like, oh, like everybody's shifting their attention over here, instead of they're like, oh, like this is how you make a game at an affordable price that people care about and get people engaged on it. It seems like in terms of PR, they did everything right here. So,
talk about a team that publishing team that has had banger after banger. Like Kepler is kind of in that boat too.
Yeah.
They just seem to back like winning bets over and over again. I tried to get a physical because I also purchased it. I just haven't started it. And when I bought it from my local game store, I pre-ordered it. And I was talking to them about it, and they're like, yeah, no Xbox copies because everyone, I presume, is going to play it on Game Pass. But a PlayStation copy is wildly hard to come by. Like, you want to try and find I think PNP Games had them for a little while, but if you wanted a physical copy, you're sort of SOL on it for now. The game has been just so popular that they didn't make enough games, seemingly.
I should have got that limited edition set that they had for a while.
Mm-hmm.
I think they're gonna do reruns, because this is one that I was like, I started playing on Game Pass and I was like, I want to own this just to support them further because it's just that good. But hell yeah. Joseph, I'll kick it to you next. You want to talk about some Split Fiction?
Oh yeah, I forgot we were going to talk about that. Split Fiction, and I was the one that brought it up. Look at that. Split Fiction, great game. This is just like more evidence that Joseph Ferris and the team have found their groove and really know the secret sauce in terms of making these like constantly evolving experience and constantly knowing how to keep the player engaged throughout like their journey within a medium to small game. Coming off of It Takes Two, this is very much like, in terms of gameplay, in my opinion, this is even more refined and more creative and just turns things even more on its head. And I think it's very rare that we get a game like It Takes Two, but it's even more rare that we get a follow-up that kind of hits on the same notes of like, you'll never guess what you're about to do in the next 5 minutes, 10 minutes, or so on. So me and my partner Amanda had a great time playing this. We had a lot of fun. I'll say that the story for me was just kind of there. Like, I like the characters themselves, but like in terms of like the overall plot, it was almost comical. Like, it was almost kind of like early 2000s comical type story of like this random CEO bad guy on his fucking Zoom call with his executives, yelling at them and having a back and forth. It's just like, and like stealing ideas. So random and weird, but I liked it. I had a lot of fun with it. Didn't get the platinum, so I know there's a couple different secrets that I still got to do. But overall, really fantastic game. This is one of those games that I feel like you can almost recommend to anyone, except it's a little hard. So I know I have some non-gamer friends that, heard about It Takes Two, played that or tried that out, and we're interested in this. But I have at least one group of friends who were like, "Oh yeah, we started it, and it was just like way too much." And then there's others that I'm like, "Yeah, I can't recommend this to you because there are some pretty crazy like shooting sections, bullet hell sections that might be tough for like the average person."
Yeah, I played through it with my partner also, and she had said, we played It Takes Two together. We really loved it. This one is more twitchy, more gamey. So I would say, like, if you're on the fence about playing this with your partner and you've not played It Takes Two, like, start there and then gauge what their gaminess is, and then maybe move into Split Fiction. The end of this game is wild, and they do a
Yes.
thing that I thought was bananas, that I think we're going to be talking about for years to come.
Yeah.
Yeah. Not to, I will not say any more than that. But yeah, maybe we played it in, I think 12 to 15 hours, and we went back and did all of the side stories, which are just like these sort of one-off, little side missions, but they're in a different world. It's almost like what they did is they prototyped a bunch of stuff, and then whatever couldn't make it into the core gameplay, they turned into a side story. And some of those side stories are among the best stuff in the game too. So there's just a lot of good stuff there. And look, if Joseph Ferris wants to do this every 4 years and put out something like this co-op, $60 title, I'm in. Just sell it to me. You don't even have to sell it, actually. Just send it to me. Thanks.
Yeah, I'll never complain about more quality co-op experiences. Claire and I had a blast with this one as well. Just the amount of gameplay variety in this one, I was just like constantly blown away by, and it moves at such a breakneck pace. I think if you're looking for a good co-op experience, this is one you'll never be bored. It's just a really good time. But yeah, I would agree with Joseph about the story as well. I thought it was fine, nothing crazy, but which, to be honest, I also felt the same way about It Takes Two overall. But I'm more here for the gameplay experience anyway, so didn't detract for me.
Which begs the question: what's gonna come of the movie adaptation with Sydney Sweeney?
Right.
What's that gonna look like?
Was I the only one that saw that headline and I was like, "That's got to be fake, right? That feels AI generated."
I did.
No,
Yeah.
and
I'm like,
no,
the game
no
just
hate
came out like
against
3 days ago.
Sydney Sweeney at all. Like, great actress, lovely.
I
all
kind of
good.
thought the project would have been a little beneath her, honestly.
It's well, I mean, I guess I don't know what the
She's
budget
one of
for
the
this
biggest
film
movie
is,
stars in the
but
world
that's
at the moment.
right.
mean,
But that's what I'm saying. That's why I was like,
Yeah.
this feels like so odd.
Yeah.
She's also producing an Outrun movie, which is like a really old game that I feel like nobody from our generation even knows about. So
Yeah,
she is in progress of making 2 different video game movies, which I don't know. But we'll see. Maybe they can spice the story up and make it a little more interesting than it was in the game. But
it's
I'm
just one that
interested
I
for sure.
don't need a movie of.
No.
You know what I mean? I
No.
didn't leave this and
Yeah.
I'm like, man, I wish I had a cinematic experience of this. Like,
Yeah.
it's-
Clair
Need to see
Obscur,
that in
though.
4D.
Clair Obscur.
Yeah.
Clair Obscur.
Where's that movie? That movie is.
I
has
want
to
like
be
an
in the
HBO
works
series or
soon.
something of that one because there's a lot
Wait,
there.
I think that movie actually might already be picked up.
Oh, really?
Let me
Are we
see.
also getting a Death Stranding film? Is that a thing?
Yes. An
Ooh.
A24
I forgot
Death
about
Stranding
that.
film.
Conceptually, that's very cool. I don't know, like, structurally how that movie will work necessarily, but
Yeah, Clair Obscur is already in
Oh.
the talks for being a movie. I mean, Hollywood is like, we'll take anything video games. Minecraft, Mario Bros, we're sold. So
interesting.
we'll see.
Interesting.
We'll
That's
see
all-
which ones of these see the light of day, including the game that we just played with Salavier Nelson.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
El Paso Elsewhere.
Yes.
El Paso,
Yeah.
sir. We got Lakeith
Of
Stanfield
course,
tagged to
Story
that one.
Kitchen is involved in the Clair Obscur. It's only ever
Yeah.
Story Kitchen.
Yes.
Interesting. Interesting. All right. Well, we just chatted about a bunch of games. I think this segues nicely into chatting about some of our top picks for the year. I think we've touched on a lot of them, but I'm curious to go around the horn. What are your top 3 games of the year so far that you think will be locks for your top 10? Obviously, we still got a lot of releases coming, but how you feeling right now? Joseph, do you want to kick us off?
Yeah, I mean, obviously Blueprints. I don't know. Nothing is going to touch that for me this year. With GTA being delayed, I'm like even more sure than ever that Blueprints will probably take that number one spot, or at least number two. Clair Obscur, I feel like so far it's trending on being in there. This game is one of those games that is so story heavy though that if they do something I don't like in the story, that could sour me on it. That's what happened with Final Fantasy 16.
Mm.
But I hear that they hit the landing with the story, so I'm not too worried. I think that's gonna make it. And then we just talked about, but Split Fiction, I think that's like when we're talking about top 10, I think it for sure will make it. I don't know if it'll make the top 5, but I haven't played anything else to make me think otherwise. So, I mean, we have another indie game that I've talked about almost every episode for the past year, which is a little game called Silk Song, which I'm sure will find some place on the top 5. So we'll see if Split Fiction stays up there.
Right on. My top 3 currently is the exact same. Blueprints, Split Fiction, and Clair Obscur. I think Clair Obscur, like you said, it's trending number 1 right now, and if it maintains that bar, excited to see how it all wraps up. I'll give some quick honorable mentions to Wanderstop, which we chatted about. Really, really enjoyed it. Avowed, which we talked about last episode with Adam Gumbert. Pleasantly surprised by that one. Enjoyed it quite a bit. And then right before I started playing Clair Obscur, I started South of Midnight from Compulsion Games. Very, very cool. Stylistically, story-wise, really enjoying it a lot. Combat is okay so far. That's the only ding I would give it, but excited to get back to it, and definitely has the similar energy of like I think it was Skill Up that I first heard compare it to Psychonauts, and I think it has that same level of like personality and character and like authentic narrative. Different vibe, but similar spirit, I would say.
Remind me to come back to South of Midnight. I have something to say about that after Jacob goes.
Okay. Jacob, what do you got?
Our lists are very similar, so I think the only thing, my list is actually probably Citizen Sleeper 2, Blueprints, Wanderstop.
Nice.
All of them are kind of like mixed in. Honorable mentions are picks. I mean, my honorable mentions probably Split Fiction. It's probably number 4 for me at this moment. I really hope people don't forget about Citizen Sleeper 2 because it is a phenomenal, like tabletop-esque, visual novel RPG that just gave me all the feels. And there's very few games except maybe Blueprints this year. And again, I might, depending on how I feel, put Blueprints above Citizen Sleeper 2. Like they're a tight 1-2, but there are moments where I'll always remember just like yelling at my TV or like exclaiming like yes, because the die roll just worked out to let me succeed in a mission. So don't forget about Citizen Sleeper 2. And then in my still need to play, we've talked about some of them, so I won't talk about Clair Obscur or Keep Driving, but I do want to play Promise Mascot Agency. That's one that I think we haven't mentioned that I do want to play. That's from the team that put together Paradise Killer from a few years ago, which I think genuinely is like one of those sleepers from the last 5 years that whenever people ask, for, recos that are below the line, I go, have you played Paradise Killer? Because that's a cool first-person exploration detective game that for a long time was on Game Pass. And so that one's a little weird. It's sort of on the surface like a management game a little bit, but there's way more to it than that. And I do want to play that. So that's kind of what's on my list, or at the top of it, rather.
Nice.
Hoop, you want to talk about South of Midnight and what you had there?
South of Midnight. I recently went to the theater and I saw Sinners, which is like based in like the deep South, like back in the day, like 70s. I don't know, in the 60s maybe. I don't know, but it's like deep South, very old timey. Obviously, South of Midnight, also deep South. Watching Sinners really made me want to go back to play South of Midnight because it also plays a little bit with like folklore and just like Southern traditions and like even the dialect. Like playing South of Midnight, I only played it for maybe like an hour, 2 hours. Just booted up, and I just loved the authenticness of how the characters were talking, like what they were referencing, all of that stuff, even like their aphorisms and whatnot. So yeah, I only played like 1 or 2 combat sections, not too thrilled on that, like Luke said, but in terms of just the overall vibe and the aesthetic and the world an environment they built for South of Midnight. I think it's going to be a really good time. So I might just turn the combat off, to be honest, and play through the story. You can do that. You can
Wow.
skip the combat because it's like the arena based combat, so you can just skip the arenas and keep it moving.
Yeah, I think I kept combat, but I cranked it down to easy, and that was a nice balance for me. Of I'm just there for the vibes, the story, but the world and style of everything is just so cool that definitely worth a play if you have Game Pass.
Yes, yes.
Nice. All right, y'all. To close things out, do you have any specific game that you think will be in the Game of the Year conversation for you that's still yet to release coming up? Jacob, what's on your
Yeah.
radar?
So I made a very quick list, while we were talking here about the 3 games that I think that are announced, that have dates that I'm most excited for, and those are Death Stranding 2, which comes out somehow in like 6 weeks from now, which is wild to say that we're already here. Kojima's here. He's gonna peekaboo up from under the sludge and ask you to throw urine at your enemies. We've got DK
Beautiful.
Bonanza, which is like what I'm most excited for to play on Switch in July. I love Kirby and the Forgotten Land,
Hell
and
yeah.
it gave me Kirby and the Forgotten Land vibes where I'm like, yes, just that plus more destruction as DK. Let's do it. And then an indie game, TMNT Splintered Fate, which is a strange scaffold joint that's coming later this month. That's like the tactical, almost like Hitman Go-esque TMNT game that's coming. Stoked for that. So those are the 3 games that I'm most excited for that
Nice.
might end up on my top 10.
That's a good 3. Hell yeah. Joseph, what do you got?
For me, I think one of the most excited I am for like future games is Outer Worlds 2. I really liked Outer Worlds 1, and I've been like looking at some of like the conversations from the devs and some of the gameplay from like the IGN first coverage that's been going on. It makes me excited. Like I love the comedic tone of Outer Worlds, the first one, and like their like extreme corporatism like commentary. I think they said they're going to branch out from corporatism and like talk about other things, which I think could be really cool. So very excited for that one. Similar to Jacob, Death Stranding 2. I'm gonna be honest with you guys. I just don't want to do 20 hours of walking around mountainous terrain anymore. But
You gotta walk around.
I watched
the
the most recent trailer and I'm like, my God, this looks insane. I just have to see what's going on here. So I think it's gonna get me, unfortunately, to walk around for another 20 hours.
Yeah, I'm excited for that one too. One more I'll shout out as the resident Sifu sicko on this podcast. I'm really excited for Rematch from Slow Clap. This one's coming out June 19th. Very different style of game. It's a soccer game, but it has kind of their signature vibe and action, and I'm just really excited to see what they do with that one. One more I'll shout out, Tony Hawk 3+4 coming out in July, which is a big one for me. Tony Hawk 3 specifically was like, that was my Tony Hawk game, so I'm excited to see like the Foundry and those different levels remastered. So yeah, some good things still to come.
One more, Silk Song, of course. I already talked about it 5 minutes ago, but it's coming out this
It's coming
year.
out tomorrow, right?
Sure.
You guys saw the
you saw
article
it?
that it's going to be played at that.
You gonna
that
fly to a museum in
Australian-
Australia?
I mean, there's no way that that's the first time people play this game this year is at that museum. So I'm assuming it's already going to be out. I hope.
Sure. I mean, it's popped up in enough places now where we're like, okay.
I would like it to come out. I will play it, and we will enjoy it.
Let's go, baby. Jacob, did you play Hollow Knight?
No, it's a little too like I don't know what it is with Metroidvanias. I've kind of like reached my limit with Metroidvanias where I started playing Ultros last year and I was like, I objectively know that this is good, but I sort of reached my limit with Metroidvanias where I didn't even play Prince of Persia last year and I was meaning to, or I just like maybe I need a little Metroidvania break for a while. So no Hollow Knight for me.
That's fair.
Okay.
If it's not your thing, it's not your thing. That's okay. All right. I think we touched on a bunch of games, y'all. Feeling good about this year and what's to come. But until then, we're going to go ahead and set our status to away. But before that, do you all have any contents, any happenings you want to shout out? Jacob McCourt, what do you got going on?
The three of us are going to be at PAX East. So if you're listening to this and you are going to PAX East, please say hello. Come and say that you've listened to the program and that you enjoy it. That stuff is always wildly validating. And if you are at PAX on Saturday, May 10th at 7:30 in the Bobcat Theater, they're letting us do video game trivia once again. We have a cavalcade of gaming stars. Dan O'Mac, Lightweight Gaming, Dave Jackson, Steve Saylor, Trina Smith from Gamerheads, and CG Danny B are joining me to do whatever the hell I do in those panels. So get ready for that. Bobcat Theater, Saturday, May 10th at 7:30. If you can't make it, there'll be a VOD later, usually like 2 weeks after the fact we put out the VOD. So get ready for that. Boys, I'm excited to see you.
Hell yeah. That'll be fun. Joseph, anything to plug? Go to the order.
Not yet.
Okay,
Maybe next
that's all
time.
good.
Ooh, tease.
As per usual, you can check out Last of Us Season 2 stuff on Lukewarm Games. Claire and I certainly had thoughts on last week's episode. Lots of thoughts to tease that there. But anyway, we are going to set our status 2 away. But before then, I'm going to ask you to do 4 things for us. If you can subscribe to our YouTube channel to get the video version of the show. Give us a follow on BlueSky at Crossplay Convos. You can send this podcast to a friend because that's how people hear about podcasts. And give us a review on your podcast platform of choice because it really, really, truly helps. 2025 is just getting started, y'all, but go play some games. Bye!